This episode is brought to you by a new sponsor, Posh Duo, the original 2-in-1 hair and beard styling stick. I use it. It's made for filmmakers, handcrafted with beeswax, tea tree oil, a fresh hint of citrus, and a single Viking tear. Listeners of this show respect the process, get free shipping, and it comes in discreet packaging. There's a link in the show notes. Get the posh look.
It's time for Respect the Process, a short chat about commercial filmmaking. Here's your host, director Jordan Brady.
Oh, thank you, Helen. Listeners, it is August 1st. Very late, early in the morning for some of you. I'm just finishing that Mexican Coke that I keep them in the cooler outside of my trailer here in the backyard. What a great show. I'm happy to present the Nott Brothers. Nott Brothers. Now, they're not really brothers, but that's part of the fun. And I didn't know if I wanted to, let the cat out of the proverbial bag. But hanging out with Nathan Miller and Mark Danciger, a.k.a. the Nott Brothers. I think they were on the show before, Helen, right? When they were just starting out, and they had a whole system of how they would approach spec spots and reaching out to potential clients with that work. Very strategic, these brothers of Nott. Anyway, they're back, and we get to see how they approach the business again, how they work with clients and agencies, because since we had them on, they have been crushing it. So we talk about their style and how it's evolved, what they've learned along the way, how to keep things fun and creative without losing the sight, on the job. So if you're into directing, specifically commercial directing, and you just want to hear about how great creative partnerships really work, well, by golly, this is an excellent episode for that. Thank you, Nathan and Mark, for coming back on the show. By the way, 3 spots left for the Filmmaker Retreat as of this recording. If you're curious, retreat curious, just reach out to me and let's get on the phone. Because if you want to make that short film this fall, I'm going to talk you out of Joshua Tree and say, you know what, go make your short film. I hear it. I hear that's your passion. Jordan Brady is not a dream crusher. I'm a dream enhancer. But if you're trying to get better work and you're hitting a ceiling, you're almost there, and we'll define what that means for you, almost where, Joshua Tree is the place to be. 3 spots left. Big, exciting news with Posh Duo that I'm going to push till later, but it does involve getting paid to shoot a commercial in real life if you want, not even that crappy AI. I hate AI. Okay, enjoy the Nott Brothers. For the listeners, just introduce yourselves so they can get an oral, I don't know who has time to watch a fucking podcast on their phone for an hour and a half, pardon my language, but I think people are listening. They're out on a jog around the lake right now. They're hearing a couple of filmmakers talk about filmmaking and commercials. So introduce yourselves and they'll know who's who.
I'm Nathan. I'm one half of the Nott Brothers.
And I'm Mark. I'm the other half of the Nott Brothers. This is actually our second time on the Jordan Brady podcast, and we're really excited to be back. When you first spoke to us, it was right at the very beginning of our careers, actually, as commercial directors. I think maybe we were a couple of years in, and we spoke a lot about how to get started in film, how we made our break, how we made our first few spots. And so, a few years on now, we've had a chance to develop a little bit, learn a bit more, learn a bit about how the industry works. And so, happy to be back.
And I'll just get this out of the way. Usually we do it at the end of the show. When you click on either name of Nathan or Mark, let's have it take you to nottbrothers.com, N-O-T-T brothers.com, where there is a plethora of funny, high-key comedy, effects, camera movement, characters that play the reality of the absurdity, which is my whole shtick. Just really fun stuff with great art direction as well.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And we've had just a lot more opportunity to play with bigger budgets and more toys, and it's been great to kind of develop our style, which we started with. I think we stayed true to the style we began with, but on a bigger scale. Yeah.
I pointed that podcast episode with the Nott Brothers. I'm going to say it was 2023, maybe
Something like that.
because you were making specs, but you had a real decided approach to that. Can you just give us the recap and how it paid off?
Oh, I guess we started by trying to come up with a really clear picture of the sort of spots that we wanted to be making, and we kind of focused on two aspects that we really liked in commercials. One of that is performances, and particularly character comedy performances. If you can tell a comic story with a comic character in 30 seconds, it's a really great way to grab audiences. And the second part was a more cinematic premium approach to lighting and to cinematography. And there's lots of commercials out there that sort of merge these two things together, whether it's the work of Mark Malloy, for example, in the States. And yeah, we basically started with this vision of what we wanted to achieve, and then we made our initial couple of spots, which were direct to charity for Mind and for Friends of the Earth, two charities we really care about. And then we began quite a sort of systematic approach of sharing those around commercial production companies in the UK, taking meetings, and as we built our reel up from there, working on transitioning from spec work to low budget work, and then finally to kind of proper commercial work, continuing to play a very much a sort of data-driven game to how we stayed in touch with everyone, keeping track of all the companies and the work they were doing, and making sure everyone who we felt needed to hear about our work was hearing about it.
In other words, you treated and still treat your directing career like a job. It's a business, and it's fun. It's whimsical spots that you're making. But that doesn't mean the other however many hours of the week that you need to sit back and smoke pot and watch cartoons.
Yeah, we've definitely found definitely the number of hours we put into that marketing and outreach and that more administrative side, that turns into briefs, and those briefs are the opportunity to actually make the films, and so we see it as a necessary kind of part of the cycle. Yeah.
And it's a hard industry. There's so much competition for everything, particularly in the modern world as well, with budget shrinking, the spectre of AI looming large, and so on and so forth. I think you do have to just find your niche and find your way into that market. And for us, it was using a quite sort of business-like, data-driven approach to the marketing. And obviously, once we're into the actual filmmaking process, we love to kind of get really creative and kind of come up with.
You take off
ideas.
that hat.
But yeah, I think you've got to kind of wear both hats, and particularly as a freelancer, we're also we still freelance, we still work with a number of different production companies, and so we kind of have to be our own marketing managers as well as the directors, and so you take a lot of responsibility there.
Do you like being freelancers, or have you considered offers to sign with a production house, or do you say, you look at each other and go, we're going to stay freelance? And I'm saying it the British way.
It started off, obviously, we were forced to be freelance because no one was interested in signing us.
No one has a choice.
But I think, as we've got more years into it, we have had some discussions about it, and I think it's an interesting trade-off between access to potentially bigger jobs versus our kind of contact network we built over time, and we maybe losing those relationships. And we just hear a mixture of stories from some people get signed and it works for them, but other people find themselves sitting on a roster for a long time, and so I think
die on the vine.
Right. So it's an interesting trade-off to consider. We're open-minded, I think, but we'd want someone to make a strong case as to why exclusivity was going to work for us as well as for them.
Well, explain to the listeners how it works. As a freelancer, are production companies coming to you, or do you find you're working more directly with brands, or agencies come to you directly how do you then mount up a production? So there's a couple different scenarios. What is the most prevalent way it works for you, and what do you prefer? And explain to us how. It's like a three-part question. Oh, my God. But you know what? You're a repeat guest. You can handle it. This isn't your first time on Respect the Process.
There's a diversity of ways that we work. Now we will often work on a traditional agency triple bid. So there is a script that already exists. We are going to propose our way that we would direct that script through a treatment, and then we will hopefully present the most compelling case. But in the past, we've done direct awards from clients. We've written creative for hybrid agencies, and which is often our favorite way to work, because then you truly can shape production. Yeah. So I think there are different ways that you can approach this, and sometimes often the agency triple bid is the most interesting job, but it's often also one where you have the least control, and perhaps you're just there as a placeholder, and they really already have decided some other director they want to work with, and you can end up wasting a lot of time.
But specifically in that agency, client has an agency goes out to directors. How are they finding you? Through your relationships with production companies?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it'd be mostly through our relationship with production companies, and we've got a number of different production companies we've got close relationships with. None of them we have exclusive relationships with, but a lot of them we've worked with before. They have their contacts at different agencies, and they're constantly, touting us and saying we're there and available for work. And I think that is an advantage of the freelance model, really, which is that you get to benefit from different producers or different EPs with different agencies, and so you do find your work gets in front of a lot of people, and yeah, that's definitely paid dividends for us. But I think one of the main things we've learned over the last few years really is, obviously that's in terms of how we get the work, but once the job has been awarded, once you're on the project, learning how these different kinds of jobs and different kinds of relationships require a slightly different thing from a director and a slightly different way of working. What's expected from us and how we can be most useful to a project is quite different when you've got an agency creative director and series of creatives and account managers, all who have strong instincts as to the creative vision for the project and also of what the client's looking for, versus when you come on direct to brand or with a smaller agency team. So often what we're trying to figure out when we join a project and what we've actually started asking people more explicitly now is, what do you want from your director?
What do you want from her?
How can we be most useful? Yeah, do you want someone who's going to be presenting that kind of strong creative vision from the beginning and be like, this is what the film's going to be, here I see it, it's in my mind's eye? Or, as is often the case, have you already been through 6 months, a year of creative development on this project? You've already got a pretty clear creative vision, and what you want is to bring someone on board who can align with you and execute it to the highest possible quality. And different projects with different processes need different things. And yeah, it's interesting thinking about sort of the idea of respecting the process and what that means, because I feel like what we've learned now is there's lots of different processes which
absolutely
need different ways of thinking about them.
Mark, let me ask you this. At what point in the process do you start testing the waters with that question of what do you want out of a director? Because I was on a pitch once with a creative team that I never met, pre-Zoom era, so they're on a speakerphone and I'm, on my flip phone. And I said, this kind of tongue-in-cheek, this spot directs itself. What do you need me for? And the creative director goes, exactly. And that told me everything. Like, A, he missed the joke, and B, he really did think it directed itself. Like, he wanted a literal execution of the script. And I tempered or pushed for ideas that I wanted or pulled back on things that that's not worth the fight. But that was in the pitch stage. So at what point are you asking, what do you want in a director?
That's such an interesting example, because I feel like I would much rather know that at the beginning of the process, because then you can save yourself a lot of wasted time and energy and fights that you don't need to have. Like, if you can figure out your place, and if they just want an execution job, then so much better to get yourself in that mindset of like, great, I'm going to be excited and enjoy that. I'm not going to try and turn this project into something that no one here wants it to be.
I'm just going to look forward to the bag of money at the end. And I say that as a joke. I mean, I do like the money, although it's never about the money with me. It's about how much. What I do find joy in, Nathan, in those jobs where the rules are clear, and the roles are very clear. You really want to have a big hand in this. You're keen on art direction. I'm here to facilitate, and my team will facilitate that vision. I think there's a joy in like being of service to the project. And there are other jobs, like when you say a client direct, they have, the brief is like 2 sentences, go make it. That's my favorite, but there is joy in the polar opposite of that.
Yeah, we totally agree, and that can lead to actually quite fruitful creative relationships as well. Because I think what always happens when you actually get into a project, when you start making it and start making actual decisions, is that you realize that there are so many choices to be made that haven't been made yet. Right? Choices about how you're going to dress the sets, choices about location, choices about a particular camera angle, and the agency might feel like they've got a clear vision, but as you move into just the minutiae of filmmaking, right, and the million tiny little decisions that make up a whole, actually it turns out that vision still has a lot of kind of gaps that you can figure out together with the creatives, what to fill them with. One thing we've started doing is making really quite detailed departmental briefs, basically kind of a briefs for our different heads of departments. So we'll make a brief for our production design team, a brief for our
beyond the treatment.
This is after award stage. So this is after award stage. We'll take our treatment. If we've done a treatment, sometimes because of the different ways we work, we might have come on board without an explicit treatment, maybe off the back of a call or just an existing relationship.
That's a real feather in your cap, by the way. I would take a job with less money if I didn't have to do a treatment.
Yeah, well, we would too. Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, treatments are still the primary currency of gaining work. I wish they weren't. After sitting and writing a 50-page deck or whatever, you definitely wish it wasn't always.
But go on, I interrupted you. Sorry.
No.
You make the interdepartmental briefs, and then you get on a Zoom with those departments?
Yeah, but even ahead of that, what we'll do is we'll sit down and we'll break down our treatment. We'll kind of rip it apart and we'll take out all the stuff that's relevant to, say, production design. We'll integrate into that any additional ideas that come out of maybe kickoff calls with creatives or any flags they raise on the basis of our treatment. And often, the creative develops after treatment stage as well. They introduce a new script, choice of new lines, whatever it might be. So what we'd then do is we'd make these really in-depth decks with as much info, as many ideas as we can put in there, and we'll put that in front of the creatives and we'll say, here's what we want to do for production design, here's everything we want to do with our production design at this early stage in the project. What do you think? Give us feedback on this briefing deck early so that we can completely align on that, and then we put it through the machine, right? We send it out to the HOD, we chat with them, we get response boards back from them. But I think one thing we've learned is the more information we're putting on paper in depth and in front of all the relevant stakeholders early on, not just the agency, but we love this stuff to be shared with the client as well where appropriate. Because the more everyone is just looking at concrete decisions, clear ideas right from the beginning, the more we find it's a smooth process and everyone knows what their role is at that point and how to slot into it.
And those are Google Docs with images, or they're full-blown aesthetically pleasing coffee table books? What are these interdepartmental briefs like, and what is the time put into them?
I mean, we normally will have established a graphic design style for the treatment, and so then we kind of imagine that this is the next document in that style. We'll take the logos and colors and things like that. It's not going to be as polished as the treatment document. We don't want to waste too much time on that. We do try and present it like it's a finished piece of work. Partly so that the agency feels free to show the client it, because again, we want to actually get the final decision maker to see as many decisions ahead of the shoot day as we possibly can, so that our shoot day will then hopefully go more smoothly.
So the shoot day is the day of execution. This is what I tell people, whether it's new filmmakers that have taken, a course at Commercial Directing Film School, and you can learn more at commercialdirectingfilmschool.com. And I'm sorry, but it is a law that I have to plug the film school by the 20-minute mark of the conversation. Or it's clients, not unlike your brief. I was just doing like a post-mortem call with the agency executive creative director. He loved that we did a wardrobe mood board specifically for the client, and she was super smart and the major stakeholder in the project. Why not get her input and her team and say, this is what we're doing? And it was foreign to some of the crew. Were like, so are we going to shop based on the mood board? No, it's just a mood board. It's just ahead of the pre-pro, so we can hone in on the fitting. And then the fittings will reflect the client's feedback. It gives us a running start so that on the shoot day, and I'm sure you've been there, where it's, did we have another shirt? Do we have another blouse? Well, we've looked at 17 and this is the one we decided on. And no, we're going to use this one. This is what you loved. Oh, I do love it. Let's go.
Yeah, I think
so. I'm loving this. I do have to say, you're making me think, Nott Brothers, that I got to step up my game, because once the job is awarded and I'm working with, whether it's storyboards that are going to go to the client or location photos, it's almost a white paper with pictures in a Google slide. So I make the logo and the cover page, it's very consistent, like Toyota, locations, the date. You always got to put the date because there's so many versions out there. And then sharing that. But it is so no frills. But you're considering the optics of, this is our style, this is our brand, and so we're going to put a little pizzazz in it. I think you're right, Nott Brothers.
I think it's about just getting a unified buy-in to the project as well, keeping everyone on the same page, and I think having nice looking documents is a way to do that. But I think it's definitely become our biggest thing we've been trying to work on. Not the documents specifically or the design of them, but more broadly, how to keep everyone on the same page from as early as possible in the project as we can. I think we've all had experiences on sets. I think every director will have an experience on set where you get there, you've got a long day ahead of you, you've got tons of stuff to shoot and not enough time to shoot it, and then you get bogged down into a complicated conversation about, should there be a lamp in the background of that shot, or what do we think about curtain, and you wish you just sorted it out earlier. And we had enough of those early on in our career, I think, when we were perhaps a little bit naive or a little bit inexperienced. We've kind of thought the client and the creative was something to manage, right? A kind of team to sort of keep at arm's length while you get on with the business of filmmaking. But as we've matured a bit and experienced working with very talented creative teams, very talented clients, we've realized that's bullshit, trying to manage a client. Instead, you should be trying to deliver for a client, working with them, working with the agency to make the decisions that everyone wants to get made, because ultimately the key decision maker, the client, the creative director, whoever they are, will have the final say. And if you don't give them the final say early in the process, what's going to happen is you're just going to eat into your shoot day with unnecessary discussions. As you say, it should be the day of execution.
Amen. To the point where this same client that I'm thinking of, and I'm going to give her a shout out because her name is Hannah, I implored her to come to a location scout, because we were like on round 3 of presenting locations, and she was in town and I was out of town. I was in Los Angeles. She was where we were shooting. And I said, if you could go over for an hour so that you with your own eyes can see this place, because it was a home furnishings job. So it had to be, the location was as important as the actors. And she was there, and I had the producer meet her. It was the smartest thing because everybody wants to get heard. She has great taste, knows her business and the goal of the commercial anyway, better than anyone. So I don't know that I always want a client coming to a location scout. This is the first, but it paid off in dividends just because, she was happy.
Yeah, we had an experience last year on a Lego social spot where we actually ended up doing virtual production, which meant that everything was designed in CG beforehand, and that's kind of the ultimate version of that, where a client and an agency were able to comment on every aspect of the set long before we were even shooting it.
Now, have you done any AI projects?
Not really, no. We've kind of used AI or worked with our kind of post teams to use AI for specific fixes, solving little problems, removing objects from backgrounds. But yeah, we're a little bit uncomfortable, I think, about being involved in AI projects where AI becomes a key pillar of how the execution is managed. I think we know how many contacts we have working in different aspects of the industry, whether they're storyboard artists or voiceover artists or composers. And, once these talented people leave the industry because there's not any work for them, they don't come back. And I think it's very important as filmmakers to look after all of our crew members across different departments and to, make sure that their contributions are being continuously valued over time. So we've actually just we've got a kind of values page on our website where we set out the sort of values that are most important to us as filmmakers, and we've got a few things on there. For example, we're very passionate kind of climate activists, and so we've got a policy of not working with fossil fuel companies, for instance. And we've got a kind of mentoring program we've been running, but we've actually just added, as of a few weeks back, our kind of AI policy
with an evil robot icon.
With an evil, I would say a morally neutral robot.
I see
icon.
Evil, but
I think definitely it's there to be seen. But yeah,
it's at nottbrothers.com/values, environment, diversity, welfare, mentoring, AI. This is interesting because I too have done some environmental things and green the bid, diversity. Obviously, TrueGent, my company, has a diversity program. Never thought about the welfare, but that's a spirit. Mentoring for sure. But AI, I actually have an AI tab with AI work, so I'm the evil naysayer, but. I'll qualify that as I think it's meant for smaller projects that never would happen without it. And the projects I've done a couple 100% AI projects, but the successful ones that'll be coming out soon are a mixture of real people, craftspeople, technicians on set, AI sprinklings. And Nathan, you made me think to ask about AI because it's really like CG on steroids in some ways. Maybe less people get their hand, like more can be done with less humans. And obviously from is it a values page? It's a morals page, really. That's a bad thing. But the example I thought of was the client saw so many different stages of this one AI project, and it was late in the game when it was, could we remove the peanuts from the table? And if you were on set, you would have seen that and said, hey, let's remove the peanuts from the table. Now that was I think it was a complete re-render of the scene without peanuts. And it just was silly and not cost effective. I'm sure you could go in with old school flame and erase things, but I digress. How did you come to, where were you? The listeners know you're not related, right? Because you shared that on the first episode that we did together.
Correct.
Do you like people to think that you're actually brothers?
We seem to go through a lot of people having a moment of realization now. Normally when we first arrive on set, where they slowly piece it together and they understand that our name is a joke. So that's been enjoyable to watch.
So the one silent T throws them off?
Yeah, that definitely throws them off. What you've got to be careful not to Google. I don't know if this is still the case, but it used to be the case, though, that if you accidentally added an S to the end of a Nott and searched Nott Brothers, you got a pair of serial killer brothers from Nottingham in the UK. And we had a couple of people Google us and go, is this really who you are? So yeah, just to all listeners, just to be clear, no S at the end of Nott, or anyone who comes up if you search that, we're not related to.
Do you live in the same city? I forget.
Yeah, we're both on other sides of London, but because we started during COVID, we're only really on video calls. Apart from, again, on set, we'll then see each other in person. Yeah.
That's interesting. You never just meet at the pub and have some fish and chips wrapped in a newspaper and talk about the treatment?
No, we try and spend as little time with each other as possible. Apart from
Wow.
I think because because of how much time we spend on video call together on a daily basis, got to go and see.
No, that's not right. Mark actually made me a lovely dinner a couple of weeks ago, so I visited his house.
But when did you decide to put the values page on the website?
That's been there really from pretty early on, and we've kind of developed exactly what those values are and how they're worded as well, of the specific policies attached to them over time. So, for example, our very first ever project was for Friends of the Earth, and actually one of our most recent ones is for Greenpeace as well. So,
I love that. That's on my list of questions.
We'll come to that then. But they're definitely being involved in environmental projects has been at the heart of who we've been from the very beginning. More recently, we've discovered this kind of Clean Creatives initiative, and we've signed up to that. So that was a later addition. Similarly, the mentoring aspect was introduced a little bit later. I think once we'd actually knew who we were and how to make films ourselves, then we felt we had something to share. And we've been actually really touched by the number of people who have taken us up on that. We've had some absolutely fantastic mentors on our shoots. Shout out to Zoom in particular. Mentees. Sorry, fantastic mentees on our.
Who was the shout out? I think I stepped on you there.
Shout out to Azim in particular, who has just done an incredible spot of his own for a dating app here in the UK. Everyone should go and check that out.
Azim, what is Azim's website?
I can give
you
Instagram. I can give you his Instagram. I'll give him a shout out just now. Let me just pull it up to make sure I'm getting the handle right.
Helen, tell Jake to highlight that in the show notes. Azim.
So yeah, his name is Azim Miah, AZIMMIAH_. He was actually shadowing us on our Greenpeace ad recently, and it just released an incredible spec for Breeze, which is a dating app here in the UK, and he deserves all the attention because he's an absolutely fabulous director with a really unique voice.
How do they find you to shadow, and what is your vetting process?
I don't think we've turned anyone away yet. Because we have enough shoots that we just kind of will onboard them straight away. We'll show them whatever the documents are for the shoot we're about to go on, and then we try and bring them along to the production day, and that seems to work pretty well.
Do you let them go in the video village with you?
Yeah, we're super transparent with our mentees. So we'll share with them our treatments, we'll share with them all of the departmental briefing docs ahead of time, we'll have a call with them in pre-production, and then on set itself, because there's two of us, we actually have quite an interesting way of working when we're on set at the moment, where one of us will be on the shop floor, as it were, directing scenes, working with the actors, working with camera, and the other one of us will actually be with client and agency in video village.
Oh, wow.
The whole way through the shoot.
Like a producer.
Kind of playing that producer role. But in particular, what I think makes it quite unique is we'll be on essentially radio communication between just the two of us, just a private radio channel between us. And we basically manage the notes process internally between us. So the director who's with the client and agency over in Video Village, they'll be taking any notes, anything that they can immediately kind of workshop or solve in the moment by explaining, I don't know, oh, that shot's actually coming up later, don't worry about that, or we're going to pick that line up in close coverage, whatever it might be. But where there are notes to be passed on, they can immediately pass them through to the other director on set. We've got a very quick shorthand between us, so we can manage that really quickly. And it just means client and agency can look at the monitor and see their notes addressed almost immediately, because there's such a quick shortcut. And it's all connected back to what we were saying earlier about trying to bring everyone into the decision-making process as transparently and as clearly as possible. And we spoke about that in pre-production, but with that kind of system on set, we can kind of keep it going through the shoot itself.
Quite efficient.
It is super efficient. Well, I kind of connected back to what you were saying at the beginning in terms of our sort of business-like mindset, I suppose. We really do value efficiency, because I think from efficiency can come creativity. When the more you quickly handle the notes process, or you quickly handle lighting setups, whatever it might be, the more time you have to play, to get that alt angle, to try that extra thing with performance. And so, the two go hand in hand. And when we have...
Well, I was just going to say, I've interviewed dozens of directing teams, and I've worked with directing teams, mentored directing teams, and I've never heard the process that you described of one of you in the village and then one running camera, the shop floor, you called it. And I find it fascinating and quite effective. The most common thing I hear from directing duos, she works with the talent, he works with the camera and the art department, right? She's great at wardrobe and talent. He interfaces with the agency. But it's never been one in the village, one running the deal. And do you switch halfway through the day and high five as you transfer like you tap one out and the other one comes in? Or do you stick for the whole day?
It can vary. More and more now we will just give someone the whole day or the whole shoot, because it happens often enough that we can look forward to the next one. But on occasion, we've split up films or scenes, or we can literally be going back and forth. But we found too much back and forth can confuse the crew, because they don't know who they should be listening to. Basically.
Right? They're like, huh? Who? What? I have people shadow me, and the vetting is they take this online shadow course that is basically a camera on my shoulder. Not really, it's my other son shadowing me throughout the whole process in the village, with the actors, with the crew, da-da-da. They have to have taken the course so they know what to expect from me. So the two things I was thinking when you were talking about your mentees, I've actually given them the recording of the pitch, because that is invaluable for them later on to pitch and to see the script and the treatment and compare it to they loved when you pitched the pony, but there's no pony in the treatment. The pony got killed and it became, the monkey or whatever. It's that I find is invaluable. So do consider sharing the pitch that's typically recorded. And the second thing is, we pay the shadow. And you may think it's out of generosity, but it's really for liability, so that they can be put on the workman's comp in case a ladder falls down and hits their head or breaks their arm. They're protected, and the production entity is protected. So just think about that.
Yeah, those are some interesting points. I think we have been a bit informal with it so far, so perhaps we need to start considering our liabilities more.
I didn't even think of it until the second time someone was coming to set, and my producer EP goes, just have them call me, we'll put them on the payroll. I was like, oh, that's interesting. A reward. That's so generous. Wow. She goes, no, I don't care about that. Why did you want to come back on the podcast? Well, you're sitting around at the pub, you're done with the fish and chips wrapped in newspaper. I know it's a cliche. Drinking the Guinness, and you're together like you are every night at 4 p.m., And you go, we ought to go back on that podcast.
I think we've learned a lot from it, and I think particularly the thing we've been talking about a lot about today in terms of working with the client and agency rather than working against them. It's definitely something I picked up from listening to the podcast and listening to you, and that was advice that we got from you. So I think we just wanted to come back on and really reinforce that message, because I think it's helped our careers in so many ways, and we hope that people can learn to kind of maybe, I don't know, in some ways it's putting ego aside and realizing that actually you can get a more joyful process when you include everyone rather than see yourself as against them. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Nathan, that makes me feel so good. I did not think that was going to be the answer. It is true that the more collaborative and communicative you can be, I find there's more joy. Because as a young man, I was such a dick and thought, hey, you hired me, I'm the director, I do this, I like that. And really, like, if I wanted that, I would go make a short film. I'd go make my own passion project where I can play God and do this and that. But really, you're being of service, and you're, as I often say, the midwife to the project. You're the one bringing the project into this cold world for the agency and or the clients. So the more you can help them be involved. Plus, not every client shoots as much as we do. Sometimes it's they only shoot in 2 or 3 years. Now, there are agency people. I've had, a creative director, and she's on set every other week, hopping around. And in fact, the woman I'm thinking of delegates and trusts so much that she doesn't want to be bothered. Like, comes around, looks, gets it, leaves. But that's not a typical client for me. So I'm really glad that you reached out, and even happier that was the reason. Mark, comments, thoughts?
Yeah, totally echoing what Nathan said, and I think what we really value about your podcast, and just in general, what I think is so helpful in the industry, is where filmmakers share their experiences with each other, because it can be a bit of a closed shop sometimes. And Oof. I know, just thinking back to where we started, even things like trying to figure out what a treatment should look like. I mean, we had no idea. Our first few treatments that we were putting together were totally pulled out of thin air. Like, we had no idea what it should look like, what the standards were, how long it should be, and obviously working with experienced producers over time, they guide you and they shape you. But even so, it's so rare you get the opportunity to, for example, see another director's treatment. And I think that applies to so many aspects of the filmmaking process. You really want to have the opportunity to learn from your peers, and for it to not feel always like you're in competition with them, but we're all part of a kind of filmmaking community and can learn together. And that's why we love podcasts like yours so much, why we're excited to be back on it, but also inspires things like our approach to mentoring, for example. It really, I think, is something that we've valued and benefited from a lot, and we want to try and give back as much as we can.
Thank you. The treatments, I've kind of gone the opposite way. Like, simpler is better, shorter is better. I have a love-hate affair with GIFs and movie clips. And I was hoping, like a year and a half ago, I was hoping and predicting that AI would be the great equalizer of treatments. That if every director of every level that got a swing at the plate had the tools to make a spiffy looking treatment, that would be good. Then the ideas within that treatment, whether it's GIF here and movie thing and the text flies in, all that would become like, okay, whatever. Because I've lost jobs where the treatment I felt had great ideas, but it was a little lackluster in its presentation. Admittedly, we are in the business of presentation. So there's a certain standard. The white paper would not work for winning the job. I've still won jobs with stick figures. Like, in fact, one of them, I had so many stick figure drawings that I did on my iPad that I took out the other pictures to just make it 100% stick figures, and won the job. I was very proud of that. But wait, I was going to ask you something, but I want to talk about the Greenpeace commercial. The Greenpeace commercials, and listeners, I'm going to post it at jordanbrady.com. It'll be a hyperlink on Apple and Spotify and all those things. But it's a minute, and it's an epic story that has... I'm always quick as an old man to criticize gratuitous camera moves and flashy transitions. This spot has transitions, pans, going below the floorboard, everything. I hope I'm talking about the right spot. None of them are gratuitous. They are all planned and purposeful, and it's really great. Tell me about this.
Well, first of all, thank you very much. That's we have a similar bugbear to you when we see ads that are just whishing the camera around
for no reason.
For no reason. Yeah, it's the same with anything.
Point of view, put the camera in a bottle. Okay, I get it. Go ahead. Sorry.
Ultimately, I think you're absolutely bang on. Ultimately, the job of a film is to tell a story, like whether it's a feature film or a TV show or an ad. And every decision you're making, whether it's how you dress the character or how you handle the camera, is designed or should be designed to serve that story. And yeah, definitely that was how we approached the Greenpeace spot. What was really interesting with that one in particular was how to handle the practical effects across the film as a whole, because we were handed a brief that on the one hand looked quite challenging when we first saw it, in that there's one actor and one live action actor in the film, and he is VO for most of it. Most of the time we're looking at urns and bedsheet ghosts and skulls and worms and trying to figure out how to tell a story where those become like characters you want to spend time with was a sort of really interesting challenge. And so part of that was how we used the camera to introduce movement where otherwise you might have a relatively static frame, but other times it was about finding ways to bring unexpected movement into the characters themselves. We have a chance to work with a fantastic puppet team on the spot, some really talented puppeteers and puppet designers.
I'm playing it now. I'm looking. The camera just went down to the skeleton, and the eye popped out of the skeleton. The eyeball popped out, or the worm popped out of the skeleton's eye, rather. And that's a perfect example of that. But go on, the puppeteers.
Maybe Nathan can pick up on that.
Yeah, I think we just love things to feel real and shoot them for real on camera, and bringing these puppeteers who worked with our production design team, the Set Sisters, gave it a real charming, slightly retro feel, and I think it turns what could otherwise be a bit scary or spooky into something kind of cute and funny, hopefully.
And handmade feeling. I think this is ultimately an ad about humans fighting back against powerful corporations, and we wanted it to feel very, despite the fact that there's, as I say, very few humans in it, we wanted it to feel very human. We wanted to feel the hand of humans across it. So
kitsch in a great way.
Yeah, kitsch, kind of. It's a TV show in the UK. I don't know how many US listeners will have heard of it, called The Mighty Boosh, which is like a really, really funny, very, very weird and very, very British TV show from when we were growing up. And that, it captures some of that spirit, I think. Very handmade, very, very tactile.
Which is currently, as we record in May of 2026, I think there is a premium put on the handmade and the humans made that. Like, you see brands showing more behind the scenes, and that, look, we really did this. This is not AI. It's the anti-AI movement. But there's some CG in this, yes?
Yes, there are a few moments of CG, like those stained glass windows in particular. We couldn't figure out a way to do that for real.
Yeah, and the drop through the floor as well that you were just talking about, where we drop out of a polar bear's living room and down into the skull. Even just saying that, it just brings a smile to my face, dropping down through the ground of the polar bear's living room and to reveal the skull. But yeah, for example, the kind of the space between the polar bear's living room and the skull, even though both the beginning of a shot and the end of a shot were physical spaces, the transition through the middle of it had a kind of CG world built for it. But we were very lucky in that the production company, Irresistible, who are behind the spot, they've got a brilliant in-house post team, CG artists, compositors, etc. And so, in particular, because it was a charity project, resources were tight, but they were able to really throw so much at the project to, I think, bring it up to a scale that we had not really imagined it could be when we first were presented with the job.
I think when you said and laughed about saying the phrase "drop down from the polar bear's bedroom to the skull underground," what other industry do we get to say the weird things like that? Like that's what I love about filmmaking, and even here talking about how you get work and collaborating and everybody wants to be heard. I mean, some of those things I think translate to probably 90% of jobs in the world. Like if you work at the whatever factory making the widgets, there's a boss and she has an opinion, and there's a CMO. Like all of that's the same, but we get to do the crazy shit.
That's
I mean, I got to pitch a chimpanzee as a spokesperson, and I've got to work with puppets and various, cats and raccoons, and I just love what we do. And that's what I love about this spot is you packed it all in. Bravo.
Yeah, it was something we just shot last week, involved kind of these cute lobsters, and I remember the client saying a similar thing where they were kind of couldn't believe they were having all these conversations about where a cute lobster should walk to, and that was not part of their normal work day. Yeah.
I keep a prop from every spot that we do. We call it the Nott Brothers Museum, and you can see a few of them behind me on my screen now. I've got dolls from the Mind Dad up there, for example. But I keep a prop from every single spot, and I think they are a constant reminder of just how when a day feels like a normal day of work, I just have to look behind me or look over my shoulder and see a dollar sign made out of Jenga blocks, or a mannequin painted in psychedelic colors, or dolls dressed up as zombies, to remind ourselves that we definitely don't work in a normal industry. We work in the creative industries, and it's such a lucky opportunity to be able to play with these silly, funny, idiosyncratic ideas all the time.
I was trying to show you the 20-foot by 10-foot steel hut in my backyard that once encased a Toyota RAV4.
Wow.
And it took 4 people. I had to hire people off the street to help get it into my backyard. And I sit in there probably, 4 or 5 times a week. My kids have partied in there. There's a huge couch that it's actually 2 sectional sofas put together, and it was 4 enclosed sides of plexiglass. Like if you had a souvenir soccer ball and you put it, signed by all the players, and you put it in the acrylic case, that was the Toyota in the case. And regular listeners know it's the Plexi hut. And I just took off the one side of Plexi, and it reminds me all the time. Like every time I go in, I'm like, I am so lucky. And the floor that it rests on, the boards that it rests on, are from a Krylon spray paint commercial from 3 years prior that I had saved the wood, this little gazebo that we made. So there's about 4 different commercials represented in building the Plexi hut.
I think that's probably the main reason why we're never going to be big-time AI directors, because it means I won't get any props for my collection. And what's the point anymore if I can't be collecting the props?
Oh, you need to compete with something on that scale, Mark.
Yeah. My garden isn't quite big enough for Plexi huts, unfortunately.
I am guilty of pitching a granite fire pit with the glass beads for a guy to sit in a chair and talk next to a fire pit. And the creative director goes, why do I think that's going back to your house to be inside the Plexi hut? And it was for a number of years. But that was like forcing an expensive prop just so I could have it, and it felt a little icky. Felt like
I was strategy. We've never thought of doing that, but yeah, we need to start doing that in our treatments more.
If you need a blender, you put a blender in the. We should have one of those high-end espresso machines in the background.
That's a very good point. Yeah, and what we have to do is make sure it's used in a shot where something hits into it, or basically anything that happens so it can't be returned back to the store at the end of the spot.
I had a producer recently want to put a wager on how many terabytes we would need. We were talking about, do we have enough hard drives? And he goes, I bet we shoot da-da-da. And I go, okay, I'll take that bet. And I went under by a few gigabytes. And I said, I'm in control. Like, I can easily just say cut at a certain point and do less takes. And I will win the bet. Because we're talking a couple $100. Like, no, I know we'll go this much. But that's not funny. Listen, our time is coming to a close. Was there anything I didn't ask that you wanted me to ask about? We covered a lot of great bases here.
No, I think we've covered pretty good ground. And yeah, it's just been such a pleasure to be back on here, back chatting with you and with your lovely listeners. And we're just so excited to continue to listen to the podcast, continue to learn from it and learn from how other filmmakers approach their craft. So yeah, thank you very much for having us back.
Oh, of course.
Hi, it's me, Jake, the editor. You probably know Commercial Directing Film School offers in-person boot camps and online courses. But did you know my dad does one-on-one consultations? Yeah, he does. So, now you know, okay? Anyway, now back to this enthralling interview.
We end the show with this question. I want you each to answer it separately, if you don't mind. The show is called Respect the Process. What does that mean to you? Mark?
I think respect the process also means respecting all the people involved in the process as well, and respecting the fact that everyone on your job has something unique to offer, whether it's your crew members or indeed everyone from the agency and client side. And anytime anyone says something to you, gives a note, gives a bit of feedback, gives a suggestion, I think it's really important to, even if you disagree with it, even if you think maybe a different approach is better, to respect the person who's given you that note and really try and take it as seriously as you possibly can and figure out what thought is behind it and how to best achieve what people are looking for. And I think respecting the process and respecting the people go hand in hand.
It's funny you say that, because I was recently a couple of months, like a month and a half ago, on a gig, and the asshole had a great idea. And I was like, I got to take the good idea, even if I don't want to, from the asshole, because everybody can come up with a gem. And ultimately, it's going to be better for the spot. That would be a terrible name for a podcast, though. Guys, thank you again. When you click on Nott Brothers, it's going to take you to nottbrothers.com. Check out the work. I'll post the Greenpeace spot, but there's much more to explore there. So thanks again, and continued success. And we'll plan our third episode, who knows when, maybe the end of the year.
That sounds great. Yeah, we'd love to come back.
Great. Thanks, guys. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Commercial Directing Film School's mission is to help filmmakers direct commercials professionally. With online courses and in-person boot camps, we demystify the process to get you to the next level, all taught by your accessible mentor, filmmaker Jordan Brady.
True Gentleman Industries. We make commercials.